Chapter 3, A Dying Breed. Lunar date 3.1625.1.10. 9 hours and 12 minutes after dayrise. Emilyn and Joseph were more excited for Daniel than he was for himself. "Shouldn't you be getting off this call? Your girlfriend will be there shortly." Daniel glared at Joseph's image coming from his nexus. After his class with Abigale, he told them everything, including how she was his secret crush. Emmy was the first to search her profile on the hub, an action more commonly known as creeping. They didn't find much since her profile was set to private. "She isn't my girlfriend." "Not yet," Joseph smirked. "Not any time," Daniel corrected, waving his right hand dismissively. "Did you miss the part where I said she has a boyfriend?" "He didn't," Emilyn interjected from her own nexus. The three of them had spent the day at their internships and were sharing a brief call while Daniel was waiting for Abigale. His final tour of the day was cancelled and he could leave as soon as she arrived. "Seth believes that since they aren't married, she's free game." "That's right," Seth agreed. "Until someone gives her a matana, then there's nothing stopping you." Daniel wondered if Dorn had offered a matana, a marriage proposal gift, to Abigale. He reached over and grabbed his water bottle. "She was wearing a couple different rings and a necklace, I think. None of them really stood out to be a matana, though." The custom of exchanging gifts for proposals stretched back as far as history was recorded. The other nations all had similar customs, though they each called it something different. "Oh, really? So what is stopping someone from snatching up Emmy from you, Seth?" He took a drink from his water bottle. Joseph leaned back in his chair. "I'm not concerned. Even if someone came and offered her a better career, they wouldn't understand her like I do. For instance, her eye-rolling is simply a compliment to my humorous nature." Daniel nearly spit out the water he was drinking. He forced it down his throat before laughing. The sound coming from his throat sounded like a dying animal. A few museum visitors stared over in his direction, and he acknowledged them with a slight nod before clearing his throat. "Compliment, eh? Keep it up, and you will show up at your internship in a body bag." Her comment didn't hinder Joseph at all. "Just make sure I get here by 2 hours after dayrise. I don't want to be late." Emilyn rolled her eyes and growled, "It's a good thing I love you." "I agree. It is a good thing, dear. Anyways, Daniel," Joseph changed the subject, "I know you said you want to focus this year on our friendship, but if this is your chance, you have to go for it." Daniel held out his hands in defeat. "I did some research, Seth. Her boyfriend is Dorn Bloske, the grandson of Hal Bloske." "You mean the previous Morasian magistrate?" "The exact same," Daniel answered Emilyn. "No wonder he can offer her a great career. Dorn has connections that I will never have." He paused. "Besides, as I've stated before, it's unlikely she's a follower of Arnion. We would see the world differently. It would only cause problems." Joseph stretched and yawned. "You may be right, Daniel. Let us know how today goes." "Will do. I'll call you later. Maybe we can meet up and hang out for a bit if it isn't too late." "Shouldn't be an issue for us," Emilyn answered. "Also, are we still planning to go home sometime next month for a weekend?" "I believe so. I know we just left, but it'll be nice to see everyone again. I'm sure my brother will be drilling us about our solar Faceoff training. Apparently, he and his friends have convinced their teacher to let them watch our matches in their cultural studies class. In fact, their class is planning a field trip to come to the prep tournament on Bara 21st. "I knew I always loved Tallon," Seth said. A commotion from outside grabbed Daniel's attention. Abigale was standing next to a person who Daniel assumed was Dorn. They appeared to be arguing, but he couldn't make out the words from where he was sitting. "I have to go. Abigale's here. I'll see y'all later." "Take care, Daniel. See you, bro." Daniel turned off the video feed and stood up. Abigale was walking away from Dorn when he reached out and grabbed her arm. Daniel took a step and stopped. "Maybe I should stay here. Whatever they're discussing is none of my business." Abigale ripped her arm from his grasp and kept walking. Dorn continued to shout. Daniel still couldn't make out any of the words. "Should I ask her if she's okay? Do I even have that right?" Abigale's frustration was clearly written on her face, forcing her cheeks to appear more pink than normal. She tried to mask it with a smile as she approached. "Hey Daniel, how was your day?" I guess we'll just ignore it then. Pretty good, actually. I had 8 tours. My final one was cancelled, so if you want to go somewhere else to work on our project, we can. Or we can go to the cafe here at the museum. If you like coffee, they have one called the Artanikst macchiato. It's supposed to have a real... He stopped when he realized who he was talking to. Of course, you've probably been here many times before and already know all of this. Abigail gently touched his arm and he felt like he had been struck by a bolt of lightning. Yes, I have been here many times. And today is a day when I might need 2 Artanikst macchiatos. They started to walk to the other side of the lobby where the cafe was located. He debated asking her about the argument with Dorn. He decided to go with a safer question. Internship didn't go well? Actually, my internship was great. I studied some small artifacts from about 500 years ago that have been preserved nicely. Nothing major, mainly just dishes and the like. Though I will be able to study a Cosmo wagon next week. Oh, really? That sounds exciting. I've never seen one in person. Cosmo wagons were the precursors to the current Cosmo speeders. Instead of hovering, they were built with wheels and drove on roads. With the ability to hover, the roads became obsolete and were replaced with buildings or walking lanes. I will let you know how it goes. Abigail stopped and twirled one of her fingers in her hair. As to why I may need 2 coffees, my boyfriend and I had a fight before he dropped me off. But you probably don't want to hear about that. Daniel tried to resist his curious nature, but he failed. If you want to talk about it, I don't mind listening. It's nothing really. He wanted me to attend some party in honor of his grandfather tonight. I told him I already had plans with you to work on our project. Well, I guess I feel honored that you'd rather work with me instead of going to an event where Hal Bloske is the central attraction. Abigail raised her eyebrow and Daniel realized his mistake. She hadn't told him who her boyfriend was. He quickly came up with a slight lie. I recognized Dorn when he dropped you off. His family isn't exactly a secret around here, seeing as this is where Magistrate Bloske was born. So you saw us fighting? Daniel lied again. He knew it wasn't what Arnion wanted, but he was trying to avoid making Abigail uncomfortable. I saw you 2 talking. I didn't realize you were fighting. Well, we were. He reminded me that going to the banquet would be good for my career. I told him that my career wouldn't matter if my grades didn't match. He then went off on some tangent about you, even though he doesn't even know you. Daniel noted the irony. Abigail barely knows me either. She continued. He recognized your name from Solar Faceoff. He was taken back from her comment. While it was true that their team was in the top 12 in Morosia, he never expected to be noticed by people who had way more prestige than him. Yeah, my friends and I are hoping to win the World Championship this year. He mentioned that. I'll be honest with you, I've never watched the game before, but Dorn is a huge fan. His favorite team is the Red Eagles or something like that. Of course he's a fan of Nolan's team. In our age bracket, they are the best team in Morosia right now. Their team captain, Nolan Actor, and I have some sort of professional rivalry. That's kind of cool. Why is that? Daniel thought back through the years. When I first started to play, we were a nobody team. We managed to beat the Red Eagles in a small tournament when they were one of the heavy favorites. He has held it against me ever since, even though they have beaten us in every tournament after the fact. All eyes are on us to see which one will win the World Championships at the end of Tharden. Seems like he holds a grudge like Dorn. He told me not to get too close to you and reminded me once again that my future will be great as long as I remain with him. Daniel didn't know how to respond. Thankfully, they arrived at the cafe, and the conversation paused while they grabbed their drinks from the fabricator. Like she mentioned, Abigail ordered 2 Artanikst macchiatos, and Daniel ordered a black peppermint tea from the candy controlling the fabricator. Not a coffee drinker? Can't stand the taste. I've tried it before. My mom actually owns a coffee shop in Truffaut, my hometown. Drives her nuts that I don't like it. I much prefer tea. Soothing and relaxing. That's really cool. Does she have a special recipe for her coffee? She does, though I'm sworn to secrecy. I'm sure she's rigged my nexus to explode if I tell her secret. Best I not take the chance. Probably a smart move. So you are from Truffaut. I've never been there, though I haven't heard anything bad about it. Maybe one day I'll get a chance to visit. If I do, I'll make sure to try out some of your mom's coffee. Have to see if it meets my standards or not. Her smile brightened the room. Well, I should clarify. It's more than just a coffee shop. They serve all different kinds of hot and cold drinks, plus snack-type foods. They also have different areas set up to play various board or card games. Even a solar deck for those who want to play something virtual. That sounds super fun. What is it called? The Masterpiece Cafe. I like that name. Sounds intriguing and exciting. I'll definitely have to check it out someday. I love playing games. Well, that we do have in common. Daniel smiled warmly. Here, she handed him her macchiato. Have a sip. Daniel did as he was bade. There was a strong taste of espresso, which he did not enjoy. It was hard to swallow. The creaminess of the foamed milk made it almost tolerable. Almost. There was even a hint of nutmeg and cinnamon. Abigail observed his twisted face. Still not a fan? Sorry, I'll stick to my tea. Boring, Abigail giggled. It's hard to keep my emotions in check when she laughs like that. Did you want anything to eat? I know I'm starving. Actually, yeah, that's a great idea. I only had a small lunch. What do you want? Daniel preferred to be the gentleman. You choose. What if I choose something you don't like? We're in a cafe. I don't think there is anything I don't like. Almost feels like a challenge. Abigail blew strands of her purple hair out of her face. For crying out loud, some days I hate my hair. She pulled a hair elastic out of her pocket and tied her hair back. Much better. Anyways, I'm too hungry to figure out something you may not like and I do, so I will order us one of the variety plates. Can't go wrong with that. I will grab us a table. Abigail returned to the fabricator, and Daniel noticed an empty spot by one of the windows overlooking the street below. The cafe was about half full, with people of all ages enjoying some refreshments. A larger nexus sat in the wall under the window, simulating a fireplace with a comfortable amount of heat. As the warmth encircled his legs, he was reminded of how the world used to be different. During the waning years of the Dracon Empire, poverty was rampant across Palmara. Once the Age of Progress began, the leaders vowed to change the world. It all started with the eradication of money and poverty in lunar year 3.46. No longer did anyone have to choose between heating their home in the cold of winter or feeding their 5 kids. Everyone was able to have a home with all of its amenities and not concern themselves with the cost. They could feed their family and go to sleep knowing every tummy was full. Fail-safes were put in place to protect the system from being abused, and without the need for money and wealth, crime started to lessen and lessen over the years. Still, each of the 4 continents created their own military to police the land in lunar year 3.53. The Treaty of Admin-Var, signed at the beginning of the Age of Progress, prohibited any of the nations from using their military might against another nation. Of course, there were still those who chose to ignore the good life of Palmara and pursue one of crime and villainy. If someone broke the law in Morosia, they were hunted down by their military known as the Magi. Despite the draw of one joining the military, Daniel knew it wasn't for him. He didn't test well in that regard in secondary school. A military career was one of the most prestigious in all of Palmara. Since he couldn't do it, Daniel learned to play solar Faceoff. It wasn't the same, but it did feed the desire inside of him. If they won the World Championship, he'd earn the respect and adoration from millions of fans. The idea of prestige started about 200 years after poverty and money were abolished. Apparently, humanity always needed to have something to separate the haves from the have-nots. Prestige became a real numerical number one could track once the Aether and Nexi were created. It dominated the minds and souls of humans trying to find relationships where they could enter into the spotlight. Love and respect seemed to be a thing of the past. For most of the world, all that mattered now was how important you were to society. As an academy history teacher, I'll be near the bottom of the middle of the ladder. This is why I can't let my emotions about Abigail get in the way. She'd never leave Dorn for me. He gives her a much better life than I ever could. Everyone started life with 0 prestige since the value was based on one's career. That was merely a facade to promote equality. Upon enrollment in an academy, all residents of Palmara received a prestige bonus dependent on the parent or guardian's profession. 100,000 for high-tier careers, 10,000 for medium-tier careers, and 1,000 for low-tier careers. For Daniel, this meant his prestige jumped up to 11,000, while Dorn, who was in the care of his grandparents since his parents died when he was young, was granted a prestige of 200,000. Increases in prestige were simple enough to come by once someone started their career, especially since everyone was granted another bonus upon completion of their academic studies. Otherwise, prestige only raised in increments of 10 at a time. Thankfully, it never decreased. As a teacher, I will receive an extra 10,000 prestige. Dorn, I believe, is already graduated and destined to be a politician, so he clearly has another 100,000. I've received some special bonus prestige from tournaments over the years. The World Championship nets the winner an extra 20,000, but still, compared to Dorn, those numbers are raindrops in the pond. A few minutes passed before Abigail arrived with their food. She placed a plate in front of them with the diverse layout of snack foods. There were tortilla chips and salsa, cubes of cheese, 4 biscuits with butter and molasses on the side, a bowl of different candy and chocolate, peppers, apple slices, strawberries, carrot sticks, and a piece of thick pepperoni. If you're trying to find foods I didn't like, you definitely would have failed. There's nothing on this plate I don't enjoy. Me either. Guess that means it will be a race to see who eats the most. Daniel grabbed a biscuit and started to lather butter on top before adding the molasses. Deal. Abigail laughed and started to munch on the chips and salsa. You know, we forgot to exchange our Nexus IDs the other day in class. Mine is directly connected to my profile in the hub, so you'll get a friend request from me as well. That is, if you don't mind. Daniel went to his settings on his Nexus and pressed the pairing icon. Not at all. I have mine set up to do the same. That way I don't forget to add a person on the hub. Their Nexi beeped in unison, indicating the sharing was complete. Daniel fought the urge to immediately call up her hub profile. No doubt Emilyn will want to study it with a fine-tooth comb. Huh, Abigail observed while reading her Nexus. I didn't think anyone actually followed the proclamations of Arnion anymore. I know Wilbur Artanikst insisted upon them being the foundation of the Age of Progress, but most people nowadays just see them as guidelines to follow whenever it fits their needs. The biscuit caught in Daniel's throat. What? Why do you say that? The comment appeared out of the blue, and he started to wonder if Abigail hated followers of Arnion for some reason. If she did, he didn't know how he was going to respond. He braced himself for the worst. I see it on your hub profile. Oh, I guess I shouldn't have been nervous about looking up her profile. Most people wouldn't recognize the phrase follower of the way, but with my historical prowess, I understood it immediately. Since you use that term, I surmise that you actually do and don't just say you do. Daniel still wasn't sure of her intentions for bringing it up. Oh yeah. Do I tell her I am? I don't want to lie to her about this. I shouldn't lie anyways. But what if it scares her away? What if she wants to get a new partner? What if she thinks I'm some sort of freak and starts to make fun of me? It isn't like I keep it hidden. I love being a follower of Arnion. But if she starts to think less of me, what then? No, it shouldn't matter. I'm supposed to be normal around her, not act like I have feelings. I can't lie about this. I think it's pretty cool, she stated before Daniel could answer. Really? Was all that came to mind to say. Yeah, it takes courage to believe in something when many others don't. I respect that. Daniel's mind returned to being at ease, though part of him couldn't believe what he was hearing. Thank you. I've never heard anyone say that about me before. And honestly, I've never really thought about it like that. My name actually means Arnion is my judge. Fitting. I've never really considered the meaning of my name. Not wasting any time, Daniel searched it up on his Nexus. Your name means a father's joy. As my father's only daughter, I'd argue that is true. He sensed some apprehension in her voice, but decided not to push it. You have brothers? 3, actually, Abigail mentioned between the bites of a piece of pepperoni. 2 older and 1 younger. You? I have a younger brother. Maybe someday I'll meet him. Abigail smiled. It faded as quickly as it appeared, and she changed the subject. So how do you hold on to your beliefs? Daniel didn't point out the shift in conversation. What do you mean? I don't know. Like, how do you follow Arnion when the world around you seems to not care or believe? Nowadays, most people say they believe in Arnion as a polite thing to say, but they don't actually believe. In fact, some people seem to think Arnion was created by our ancestors as a way to understand the world around them. And the whole idea that Drakon became a spiritual being after he created his empire was near death? Well, honestly, that just seems absurd when you really think about it. How can a human become a spiritual being? Daniel was impressed with her knowledge about Arnion and Drakon. He reminded himself it was because she loved history, and not because she had any interest in following Arnion herself. I understand what you were saying. He grabbed a few chocolates from his bowl and took a sip of his tea. I'll tell her the truth. Though I won't go into extreme detail, I don't want to bore her. For me, it started when I was young. There's actually a decent-sized community of followers of the Way and True Fawn, and I was taught to follow Arnion's proclamations from birth. As I grew older and started to study in school, I was forced to wrestle with whether I wanted to be more like my classmates or stay committed to my beliefs. I saw what life looked like when people don't follow the proclamations, and I wasn't attracted to it. I decided to keep with my beliefs, and I have ever since. Fascinating. I don't think I've ever met anyone who actually followed Arnion. Her voice held no condemnation. In fact, she seemed to be almost fascinated. Daniel chuckled a bit. Yeah, we seem to be a dying breed for sure. A dying breed. I like that. Seems almost like you're part of some secret organization that's been tasked with safeguarding the lives of humanity and your numbers are dwindling. Oh, I could kiss. No, don't go there. Normal. Be normal. Yeah, almost seems that way. He chuckled again. Anyways, should we start working on our project? Hold up. Abigail held up her hand, still holding a piece of red pepper. I still have some questions I want answered. You aren't going to get off that easily. Daniel leaned back in his chair, submitting to her request. All right then, ask away. I will do my best to answer. Okay, give me a moment. She ate the pepper and finished the contents of one of her macchiatos and started on her second. Is it accurate to say that following the proclamations of Arnion is merely trying to abide by certain rules? Daniel grinned. This was a common question. That is actually a misconception many people make. The 9 proclamations are not a law you abide by, but rather a code you live by in pursuit of harmony. The 9 proclamations were given by Arnion to the original inhabitants of Palmara. It was believed that Palmara was created with 5,000 humans of diverse skin and hair colors on each of the 4 continents in a different city constructed by Arnion. These were the original capital cities. The humans were blessed with the knowledge of their written and spoken language, as well as what was needed for taking care of their city and connecting with humans of the other kingdoms. Daniel, Abigail cocked her head. I know all of this. I'd be a horrible history buff if I didn't. You are still living a life guided by the proclamations, are you not? What's the difference? Well, first let me ask you this. Do you even know what the 9 proclamations are? Abigail shuffled uncomfortably in her seat. Not exactly, no. I know one talks about harmony and another about compassion, I think. Daniel started to type on his Nexus. What? You don't know them by heart? Abigail challenged him with raised eyebrows and a slight smirk. Oh, I do. This is just so it's easier for you to follow along. Watch it, Arnion boy, or you might need to find yourself a new partner. She was still smirking. If anyone else had called him Arnion boy, he may have felt insulted. Instead, he felt honored with the nickname from Abigail. Hey, remember I want to be a teacher. A visual is just another tool to help people remember. Smooth recovery. Thanks. Anyways, here are the 9 proclamations. Number 1, dwell in harmony with all of humanity. 2, give honor to others before yourself. 3, take delight in every circumstance. 4, hold on to perseverance during difficult times. 5, always speak with tenderness. 6, live with compassion towards all. 7, be filled with devotion to Arnion family and friends. 8, temper truth with mercy and grace. And 9, discipline your desires and passions so they don't control you. I don't mean to be rude, so please forgive me, Abigail began. Some of those seem fairly, Vague, I guess. For instance, give honor to others before yourself? That could mean something different for everyone. It could if people try to tear it apart and analyze every word, which has happened before. Actually, it still happens now among some, but that's besides the point. We don't need to get into that. Arnion gave the proclamations in simplicity so we'd understand them. Honor, as defined, is a sign of respect and love. When we give honor to others, it means we put their needs, desires, and wants before our own, he explained. So, according to Arnion, honor is a way of showing love? According to Arnion, honor is the way of showing love, Daniel corrected with a smile. In regard to your earlier question about the difference between the proclamations being law or a code to live by, let me try and explain it. Anyone can try to follow the proclamations, but Arnion looks at the intent of our hearts. Are we following them to try to make our good outweigh our bad? Arnion doesn't care about that. We will never follow them with 100% accuracy. It's impossible. We will fail and mess up. If it was a law, then failing would lead to dire consequences. However, since it is a code to live by, we are given grace for our failures as long as our intent is to continue to follow Arnion to the best of our ability. This is why only Arnion decides who is truly a follower and who isn't, because we can't determine the intent of another person's heart. Unless, of course, someone makes it blatantly obvious that they aren't following Arnion. Interesting. Abigale finished up one of the biscuits. This opens up a lot more questions than I was anticipating. Maybe we should work on our project and we can connect sometime before our next meeting so I can ask a few more questions. I wouldn't mind. Awesome, she paused. I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions and not treat it like a hassle. I guess that's you showing me honor, eh? Daniel laughed. Yeah, I guess so. I'm excited to work on this project with you. I was in a bad mood when I arrived today, but you've helped me get out of that. Thanks for listening and letting me talk. Usually I go to my best friend Shyloe, but I didn't want to be rude and call her while I was here with you. I wouldn't have minded, Daniel admitted, though it wasn't entirely truthful. Well, I'm glad I didn't. I was able to get to know you better and you've given me a new perspective on things. He didn't know what else to say except, you're welcome. Thank you for listening to my book Palmara, A Dying Breed. I'd love to hear your feedback. What do you like? What do you think needs some work? What are you most interested to see happen? What questions do you have? At the end of every chapter, I'll have these slides that show how time works in Palmara, plus the different sayings and terms to help you engage with the world. As well, the characters who appear in each chapter will be found in the video description. Be sure to check it out. And if you're enjoying this and enjoy other stories, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can always join the Discord with the link in the description as well. Until next time, Hine Akmatov, which means how pleasant it is for humanity to dwell in harmony with one another. Take care.